The global map of power is being redrawn, not on the battlefields, but in the mines, ports, and trade corridors of the world. The United States, under President Donald Trump, is now pushing aggressively into Central Asia, seeking access to rare earth minerals essential for modern technology and military industries. It is a competition unfolding in a region historically dominated by Russia and increasingly shaped by China's Belt and Road network. At the same time, Europe, the United Kingdom's post-Brexit reset with Brussels, is faltering. The EU is now demanding financial contributions in exchange for deeper economic cooperation, raising the question of whether Brexit's political independence is quietly giving way to economic interdependence. So the global landscape we examine tonight is one of new alignments, strategic dependencies, and contested sovereignty. I'm Mona Moselhi, and this is In Focus. The new U.S. strategic push into Central Asia is centered on critical minerals, tungsten, lithium, and rare earths, material essential for weapon systems, electric motors, and advanced electronics. With China's near monopoly on mineral processing, Washington is looking for alternative supply lines. President Trump's meeting with the C5, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan highlight Washington's attempts to secure long-term economic access and military advantage in the region. But Central Asia is not entering these deals from a position of dependence. These states are navigating a careful strategic balance, seeking U.S. investment without provoking Moscow or Beijing, both of which remain deeply embedded in their security and economic systems. Meanwhile, human rights and governance questions risk being sacrificed to strategic interests, raising a familiar debate: is this competition about partnership or influence? Now we're joined once again by Mr. Babak Mimyan, economist and political analyst based in London, to reveal more about this topic in our program In Focus. Mr. Babak, good evening to you, sir, and welcome to In Focus. And let me start by asking, how do you interpret Washington's renewed push into Central Asia? Is this primarily economic competition with China or a broader geopolitical strategy to contain both China and Russia simultaneously?
Thank you very much for your question. First of all, let's start with these countries in Central Asia. They're all great countries. They are good countries. They're not interested in warfare. They're very peaceful countries, and they want to develop their economies. So this is their wish of these countries. And the biggest dispute was between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which is that now sorted out. So these are good countries, peaceful countries. And I think President Trump foreign policy of peace and prosperity has paid off. No leaders in the world find President Trump threatening. They all welcome him. Even the Chinese or the Russians, they all like him because he comes with a message of peace and prosperity, and not just a message. He actually wants to do the work. He wants to deliver prosperity. Of course, there are lots of side benefits. One of them is to cancel the Iranian influence in Central Asia. The other is to reduce the Chinese influence and the Russian influence. But that doesn't mean President Trump does not want to work with the Russians or with the Chinese. But more importantly, U.S. had lost a base in Afghanistan this is a good way of getting back into Central Asia.
Mm-hmm. Now, the US is targeting critical minerals like tungsten. Now, how decisive are these minerals in shaping the next decade of global power competition? And definitely, we're not just speaking about the very non-sophisticated industries, right?
These rare earth minerals, they have become very important recently because now we need them in all sorts of devices. The reason why in the last 20 years, the West had not concentrated on mining these rare earth minerals were two reasons. One was most of the funding and investment went into social medias like Facebook, Google, Instagram. So that's where the West invested. Meanwhile, the Chinese invested in mother industries like these rare earth minerals. And
Mr. Babak, if we speak here about those earth minerals, we're not just speaking about industries, or yes, they are very much indeed used in technologies, very sophisticated technologies and chips and all the needs of technological devices, but they are also used militarily.
Indeed, that's a very big issue. Militarily is used. The reason why, also the second reason why the West had not pursued mining these rare earth minerals, because unfortunately mining these is very environmentally unfriendly. They are very unfriendly to environment. But now I'm sure with the revision and with new techniques and technology, the mining of for rare earth minerals would be done compatible with environmental policies, with friendly environmental policies.
If I may ask you, Mr. Babak, now you're saying that President Trump is going with a message of peace, so he's acceptable in all countries, right? But President Trump is going there to make a kind of agreement on buying those earth minerals. He's not going there to invest in their own countries or to give them the know-how of extracting them or any of that sort. So, in fact, it's not really, he's not really going with a message of peace. In fact, he's going with an agreement that will be in favor of the US more than those countries. What do you think?
Well, there are always different ways of interpretation and different ways of looking at it. I like to take the positive that these countries, the leaders of the Central Asian countries, are great leaders and very strong leaders. And they are not going to do anything that would be not beneficial for their own people. So I would give them I would give them a lot of credit that whatever they would do, however they would negotiate with the United States, it would be for the benefit of their own people. And also I may add that the President Trump Abraham Accords, the ideology, unlike the Europeans, who they think a solution to everything is through politics, and we saw that with Oslo Accord, which did not work because it was a political agreement. President Trump believes that the solution to everything is through trade. That's why we have Abraham Accords.
Yes, but indeed, I'm not doubting any of the presidents or the great leaders of those countries at all, or their intentions for the benefit of their own countries. I'm just asking about Trump's intentions of taking the mineral earth and, for an instant, pushing Kazakhstan to join the Abraham Accord and normalize relations with Israel. This is pushing them to do so. And I'm pretty sure that we are aware of the economic situation of all those countries. So does this fit into Washington's broader Middle East calculations, their Central Asia calculations? What do you think?
I think to use the term pushing is too much. I would rather use the word encouragement. Again, I would go back. These are very strong leaders in Central Asia. You cannot push them to do something. But
in circumstances or in economic circumstances that countries are in, as those Central Asian countries are, this is called pushing, right?
Well, if you look at the history of these countries, these are young countries. They've come out of 70 years of communism. They are beginning to understand the global trade and to get involved in the global trade. So they need assistance from larger economies to help them to become even more involved in world economy.
Mm-hmm. If I may ask you here now, the C5 or those countries are balancing US deals without antagonizing Moscow or even Beijing. Now, do those states really possess real strategic autonomy, or is this a managed neutrality?
Again, I go back. These are countries who are finding their own identity slowly, and they are establishing their own unique way. Each have a unique way of economy, and they have different cultures and identity. So these, I'm just saying these are countries. We have to allow them to establish themselves further and grow also. And again, I go back to what I said before. These are very good countries. They're very peaceful countries, and they don't mean harm to anyone. And they would coexist with anybody. So whether it's with the Russians or with the Chinese, they would coexist with anyone.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Okay, let me here take you to another area where environmental standards for mineral extraction are far looser in Central Asia than in the West. Now, could Central Asia become a sacrifice zone in this resource race?
Again, Central Asia is a unique area. It has lots of natural resources. It is very thinly populated. So there is a lot of potential for growth, both in terms of population and also in terms of economy. It's a vast land, it's huge land with a great history. And it is, I would say, it's neglected by the world so far. So it is good that they are now getting more attention through President Trump.
No, let me get that straight. Now, they were neglected, their earth minerals, or because they don't have the abilities for industries or to build industries inside their own countries. And then I'm reiterating what I said. Mr. Trump is not offering them investments inside their own countries using those mineral or those earth minerals. He is, or he wants to make an agreement to take those earth minerals. What do you think of that?
I don't think, again, I would say that mining is a very specialized industry. It takes huge amount of investment. It takes a very long time to actually start paying back. And in terms of investment, you need a very long time to recover your investment. It's not like oil and gas, where you could relatively recover your investment over 10 to 15 years. Mining would go over 30 to 50 years before you recover your investment. And these countries, they were socialist countries, so they had central planning, and their industries were not based on market economy. And now this shift from socialist system, from central planning coming back to market economy is a huge shift. And so far, they've done a great job. But in order to get to the next stage, again, they need assistance from larger economies.
Indeed, indeed. Critics argue that Washington is ignoring human rights concerns to secure mineral access. Do you see this as a return to purely transactional diplomacy?
Well, Russians are happy that the United States is coming there to invest in these countries, because if the United States was not interested to invest in these countries, who would come and invest in these countries? And it's President Trump. Europeans are not there. I don't see any other countries or regions being there. So it's either Chinese or the Americans. And when it comes to any investment, the terms that the Americans offer is much better than the Chinese.
What is the American offer, Mr. Babak? What is the American offer?
The American offer, at least when they offer, first of all, most of the companies who are so there is least amount of corruption. Also, they have to obey by certain by standards, minimum standards. It's not like and they cannot resort to extortions or other things. And unlike we've seen that practice with the Chinese companies in Africa. No way an American investment or a cooperation could do that, what the Chinese government is doing in Africa.
Oh, is it about what Washington should do and what China shouldn't? It's not investments. We're speaking about a win-win situation for both sides here.
Yeah, yes. I mean, the standards set by America, it's not only Washington, it's the normal way that the Americans do practice. So the practices that the corporation have in America, wherever they go, they are obliged to carry the same standards. Their shareholders demand them to do that. And the corporations in America are accountable to shareholders, and public opinion is very important to corporations. And it is a lot more than what we get in terms of the Chinese or other countries.
Right. So looking ahead, can Central Asia become the new decisive arena of global competition, much like the Middle East was in the 20th century?
I would say every region is subject to competition. It's not only Central Asia. Maybe Central Asia has started. Middle East has been, will be a region for competition for a very long time. Similar to Europe. Europe is subject to the way we see the Chinese have infiltrated so much into the political system of Europeans, and their lobbies are everywhere. And they're not even, the Chinese spies are not even prosecuted now. So we see even Europe, everywhere is under that competition.
Yes, please, Mr. Babak, stay with us as we turn to Europe. This is our next segment, where London and Brussels are struggling to define what resetting relations actually means in practice. From the Eurasian interior, we now turn to Europe's political core, where the post-Brexit reality is proving more complex than campaign slogans promised. Now, 6 months after the Windsor Reset Summit, the relationship between London and Brussels is once again strained. The EU is now insisting that the UK pay into the EU budget if it wants smoother trade, lower energy costs, and access to youth mobility and defence collaboration programs. In other words, if Britain wants the benefits of the EU, it must contribute like a member, even though it is no longer one. For the EU, this is a matter of economic fairness and market stability. For the UK, the optics are more sensitive. Does this undermine the very purpose of Brexit? The negotiations now touch on energy alignment, youth mobility exchange, participation in the EU's €150 billion defence funding programme, but beneath the technical language lies a deeper question. Is Brexit slowly evolving into a form of negotiated interdependence? Right, back to you, Mr. Babak. And how seriously should we interpret the EU's demand that the UK pay into its budget? Is this just negotiation pressures or a structural shift? What do you think?
Well, I don't trust anything that whether the British government or the Europeans say about Brexit, because when it comes to negotiations, neither of them will know what they want. The reason why they're so confused, both sides, because there is never been an exact definition to Brexit. That's the problem with Brexit. It has no definition, no exact definition. So neither side, especially the British side, they don't know what they exactly want. And whatever the European offer and whatever the any British government accepts, there'll be a huge number of people who will say is a betrayal of Brexit.
The youth mobility dispute suggests differing political priorities. Is this a cultural divide, an economic one, or something deeper about identity?
I think it's a failure in political system because there are certain topics that should be left to the experts, not brought out to the public. Trade is a very sophisticated, complicated subject. It should be left to politicians, and not all politicians, but the politicians who have expertise in global trade and trading generally. Once you put that to the general public and you involve it with nationalism, you're asking for disaster. And that is what happened with Brexit. And that's why now we are in this mess, I would say.
But then if the UK joins the EU's defence funding scheme, does this mark a return to European strategic integration by another or through another door?
Well, that's a great question you ask. When Brexit happened, it became clear that leaving European Union, after a while, the British had to go back again because the Europe are the greatest trading partner for Britain. So they had to go back and they had to accept everything, except now they had no voting rights. So this is the pattern we are seeing, that the British are going back to Europe in terms of trade. They were accepting bit by bit what the European want because of they are their largest trading partner, and they are paying the fees, they are agreeing to regulation. The only thing is they have no voting rights, they have no voice, they have no influence in the political or regulation side of the EU, European Union.
Right. How do you assess Sir Keir Starmer's approach in from your point of view, is this Brexit pragmatism or a step towards soft realignment with Europe?
Well, whether Keir Starmer or any prime minister after Keir Starmer, they would have to pursue this policy.
Why?
Yes, it's just the question is how you would explain it to the voters. Now, this was settled in 1975. It did not need it to be revisited again. But certain politicians, in order to win a segment of the voters, they tried to revive this, bring it up. And I'm a member of the Conservative Party. I have to say it was my party who brought this up, and they thought they could control it. But it went out of control, and this is where we are.
So you mean here that any prime minister in the United Kingdom or Britain here will do the same, aligning again with Europe, but he has to explain or give reason to his nation why he's doing that? That is what you're saying here?
Yes, exactly.
Then why was the Brexit in the first place?
Sorry, one more time, please.
Then why was the Brexit in the first place if they have to align with Europe? Why was the Brexit?
Okay, the reason why they said by leaving Europe, EU, European Union, UK can do much better in terms of global trade, which was not the case. It has not been the case. Actually, there has been a decline in trade. And why trade is so important? Trade means putting food on the table. Right now, the state of economy is not that good. The economy is growing at 1% per annum with a deficit of 5%. So we are 4% in negative. So the only way to improve the economy, the economic growth, is to have much better relationship, unfettered relationship, free access to the largest single market in the world, which is EU.
Again, let me reiterate this question in another way. If that is the case, Britain has to realign with Europe. And if Europe was strong by Britain made a Brexit, and it thought that that would be in its interests or in the interests of Europe, or what exactly? Why was the Brexit made if Britain has to realign with Europe or align with Europe all the time, and the economy of Europe was really affected by the Brexit?
As you would appreciate, human nature is very complicated.
Indeed,
and
indeed it is.
Yes, and it's not always rational. And a lot of times they go on their emotions without any rationality or logic. And nationalism and the feel of superiority towards other, it just takes you over. One becomes irrational and eventually believes that one can do better without the others.
Because you really believe, Mr. Babak, that policy and politics goes with emotions, or that Britain policy goes with emotion?
Of course, we are run by emotions. Look at how many different religious beliefs we have as a human beings. So we are bodies of emotions. On the contrary, we are not very logical. The only time we become pragmatic and logical when we have to, when we are forced to. And right now, because of the low economic growth, now people are becoming more rational, more logical in the United Kingdom, and now having to accept terms to deal with EU.
So you think here that the post-Brexit era is still being negotiated, and could the next decade brings a fundamentally different UK-EU relations than that of today?
Yes. First of all, every generation has its own madness. So I would say the Brexit madness generation has passed now, has expired. So the new generations are looking at it more rationally now. And I think there will be a better relationship between Britain and Europe, and there will be better agreements in terms of trade.
Well, Mr. Babak, as we all know, nothing is made haphazard. Everything is done for a reason. But remains to be seen. Mr. Babak Emamian, we thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights with us in this segment and the one before. So tonight we explored how global power is shifting from the mineral-rich heart of Central Asia to the negotiating tables of post-Brexit Europe, revealing a world where strategic dependencies and geopolitical rivalries are shaping the future of nations. Many thanks for watching In Focus. We'll see you next time.